We are live. Hey guys, my name's Alex and this is Franchise Talk. Today we're on with APG, a great franchise really focused on the wealth creation and really the education of wealth with retirement in regards to retirement planning and a few other aspects. But you know what? I'm going to hand it off to the president. I'm happy to have him on today. Mark, you're up.
Yes, Alex, thanks for having us here. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have that you think your listeners and watchers would be interested to know. Primarily, we are the premier retirement and estate planning organization as a franchise in the nation. And we are very, very well versed in talking with people about their finances, about their plans, their goals, their ambitions of where they want to go, where they are right now, where they came from, and help them get to their ultimate destination, financially speaking. It's a lot of fun for us. I've been doing this for 35 years and as a franchisor since 2003. So we have the experience, we have the intricate details necessary to build our business going forward. The only thing we need and are looking for are quality people to associate with us, to be our business partners, to spread the message of sound financial planning and the proper tools, ideas, strategies, technologies, and products, and how to implement them. And that's the ideal candidate for APG.
Awesome. And once again, I thank you for being on. And Chelsea, I know you're here with us today as well. So if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for APG.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, my name is Chelsea, and I'm actually the daughter of Mark, and I'm also the director of franchise development at American Prosperity Group. I've been doing it now for about 3 years, and I came into this kind of by accident. And even though I've been growing up in APG all my life, I kind of wanted nothing to do with it when I was young. And that was more of the rebellion, immaturity, more or less. And then long story short, something happened and one of our major partners, he wanted to retire and go closer to home. And I said, okay, well, train me and I'll help out until we find someone that can be full time. And about 2 days in, I said, stop the search. This is my calling. I'm able to work with people, help them achieve their dreams with wanting to have more family time, have more financial success, and to be able to help them help others. And that is really what turned me on to this whole idea of working in franchise development. And since I started, we had our fastest growth in the franchise. We had 6 new people on in the last 3 years, which is a huge growth for us. We're only 21, in 11 states. And I want to get more. That is my goal. And everybody that I've brought on is incredibly enthusiastic, loves what they're doing, and is so grateful that we made that connection. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to be able to help build this company, not just because it's a good, strong company with good morals, but also because it is my family's business. And that just fills me with absolute joy that I can bring a smile and make my parents proud that I'm building this company for themselves and for pretty much America.
And that's awesome. As far as a family-based business goes, I mean, I know a lot of vets, particularly because I was a vet, that really seek to have that in their lives as well. So guys, keep that in mind. Anything that you do or go towards, you can essentially incorporate your family and try it. See what is out there and available to you. But you know what, Chelsea, what is your role with APG? I don't know if I caught that.
I do all the franchise development. So I work directly hand in hand with either the brokers or with my candidates. I go through pretty much every step of the way, from getting the first initial phone call, introducing them to APG. We go through the franchise disclosure document piece by piece to make sure they have a full understanding of the legal documents. Then we set them up for all different steps along the way. They come for a discovery day eventually. That's where they get to see the whole day in action of what it's like to be an APG franchisee. And then I bring them from first phone call to signing the agreement.
And guys, one of the things that she went over is the exact process that you're going to go through no matter what franchise you step in front of. You got to get on the phone. You got to talk to them. You got to make sure they're right for you. And essentially that FDD, what she's talking about, is the franchise disclosure document. Essentially what it contains is your agreement from front to back, everything about that franchise. And in some cases, an item 19. Do you guys have an item 19 in your?
We do. Yeah, we do. It is impressive. We have a fantastic item 19. We have our new one coming out. That's just how it works. It's usually not issued until around April or so because of tax season. But we've got even better numbers coming out for the 2015 FDD, and we're just absolutely thrilled to get that eventually published.
All right. And guys, another thing, that item 19 is a big deal in franchises, typically. It is going to give you a third-party audited financial run-up of the company and its performance. That's a big deal because that's going to be able to help you mathematically figure out if it's going to be a good idea for you and your goal set. So the only other part of that, in there and that process in there that she explained that might not be familiar to you yet is that broker portion. Essentially, what she means by that is working with franchise experts like myself in helping people discover this franchise and figure out if it's going to be right for them. And essentially, that handoff is very easy. So, another thing that I wanted to get into, Mark, is the uniqueness in this business. There are some other companies that do what you do. What is unique about APG, and what has made this such a growth business?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Alex. Our uniqueness is something called the Trinity method of investing. No one else has that, and we feel that the public is under attack from the 5 forces of portfolio demise, and that would be, in no particular order, the risk of a liability lawsuit, the cost of health care, the cost of taxes when you die, the cost of long-term care, which is not covered by health care, and obviously the biggest one of all, market losses. You start building your portfolio along the way. Along comes a 2008, a 1987, a 1990, a 94, a 2000, 2001, and 2, where the market takes away 20, 30, 40% of your accumulations of years and years of fastidious savings and living below your means and socking that away to have one bad market or 2 or a prolonged one knock out everything you've accomplished for the last 10 years. We want to protect people from that horrible situation from happening, which does periodically and cyclically. And if you're looking at the calendar and catch those years I mentioned, 87, go ahead 7 years, 94, go ahead 7 years, 2001, go ahead 7 years, 2008, go ahead 7 years, 15. Well, 15, we didn't really have a bad year. Beginning of 16 certainly was. And if you're fully invested, fully engaged in equities, you could have a rough time, rough sailing ahead of you. We want to protect people, their assets, their net worth. And everyone puts away money, or should be, in savings dollars or investing dollars. Only those 2 kinds of money: dollars at risk, dollars not at risk. And those dollars at risk is necessary to keep pace and exceed inflation. And when these bad markets happen, it's really a horrible, terrible thing to regress and go backwards, 5, 6, 7 steps, or 5, 6, 7 years. If there was a way that you could lock in your gains and not have to deal with the losses, that's what we're all about. And we want to prevent people from having to change their plans and have their lives financially derailed by having some forethought and some planning and some positions where they will not suffer that regression in their lives, financially speaking. And this is what we stand for. So we want to protect them from those 5 forces of portfolio demise. And that's what our Trinity method of investing can do. And by positioning dollars in such a way that if there is a lawsuit in your life, or there is a health scare, or a long-term care need, we will circumvent the expense of that. We can't stop the occasion, but we can stop the dramatic effects financially, that negative inference, from ever destroying your financial life and your spouse's life at the same time. And then when we reach the end of our life expectancy, to take everything that we've done and fuel it and funnel it to our children so they can start off way ahead of the game rather than starting from scratch all over again. And the biggest obstacle of doing that in states like New Jersey, where we're from, is an estate tax or an inheritance tax. New Jersey happens to have both. And then there's the federal estate tax if you're worth over $5,450,000 in 2016 dollars. Most people would not be in that category. There's some that are, thank goodness. But those who are not, they have to only contend with their state estate tax, which in New Jersey, as an example, is as high as 16% is the cost of dying. And God forbid you die with an IRA. If you have an IRA, that's taxed for income tax, it's taxed for estate tax at both levels, state and federal. So at the highest maximum bracket, all those categories, for someone like in New Jersey, they could lose over 85% of their IRA upon the death of the second spouse. There's no transfer to the first spouse, but when the second spouse passes, to going to the children, it's as much as 85%. And that is not a figure that's widely known in the American consciousness, that the confiscatory nature of taxation and government is perverse, in my opinion, and there should be ways to reduce, eliminate, mitigate those expenses of taxation. If after you get through market losses and healthcare costs and long-term care to contend, or a liability lawsuit, then contend with the taxes at death and that confiscatory posture of government, it's amazing that there's any inheritance for anyone at the end. Our job is to mitigate that and then even enhance the bequest to our favorite charities, that start with our same last name, and to give on to our children everything that we've accomplished after we're done using it to the maximum potential that it can provide for us.
And that's, man, and you nailed a lot of concerns, American concerns at this point. And what scares me about trying to build wealth and grow as a business, and particularly as a business owner, that is a primary concern of mine. It should be a primary concern for a lot more folks who are particularly coming close to that retirement phase. I know, and this is coming from me and my background, I know a lot of military vets who could definitely use this guidance overall. So, if you were willing, and this sounds like you have been around a while and you have had some amazing consumer feedback. Do you have any examples of that for us?
I would tell you, Alex, that there's basically two kinds of people, financially speaking, in the country today. Those who are accumulating wealth for their future and those who are living on their wealth accumulation. APG helps both of those people. You're either building up money for your future or you're living on the wealth you've accumulated. That's it. And if we get to the end and we have more month than money, or we outlive our money, there's a technical term for that. It's called longevity risk. Might we live too long and outrun our money? Now, not only did we talk about those 5 forces of portfolio demise, the last one I didn't really mention or number was outliving your money. Might you have more month than money? And that would be a horrible thing. And if we have those negative things, those forces that might injure our portfolio, wouldn't it be nice to know that everyone can create and build their own pension? That if I didn't work for an IBM or an AT&T or a company like that with a pension, if I didn't work for government or for a hospital or a school system that has a pension, isn't it nice to know that with my own money, little old me, just by myself, can create a pension that could last for as long as I live, and my spouse's life as well, even with my IRA, which is supposed to be individual retirement account. What if I can convert that to a joint retirement account and my spouse can benefit on my IRA for as long as she would live? Even if the account runs dry because I spent it all, she will continue to take an income at the highest level I was for as long as she lives, if those people know how to do that. Well, we want to share this information of how to do this in a very efficient and cost-efficient way, number one. Number two, in a productive way that the income can not only continue to come in, but even rise, even increase. And there's concepts and products that do that. Even though the account value might be exhausted before death, the spouse can continue to get an income and have it increase with performance of the stock market, the bond market, and so on. So the ignorance of our nation is perpetuated by the continuing education of the school systems, which are not teaching the best things we need to learn in life. As a matter of fact, the 3 most powerful things we have to learn in life are not taught to us in school. First would be how to be a good spouse. And second is how to be a good parent. And third would be how to manage our money. Now, I'm not going to talk about being a good spouse or parent, which I certainly could lecture people on, having 4 kids of my own. But the bottom line is how to manage your money. There is no education on where to put it, how to manage it, how to structure it. But definitely, absolutely positively, there is no way on how to deconstruct a portfolio. There's no education on how to take my money out of my 401k, out of my IRA, out of my tax sheltered annuity if I work for a hospital or a school system. How do I create this income, this cash flow that must last me for the rest of my life and my spouse's lifetime? These are the messages that APG franchisees deliver every single day, and how to incorporate Social Security and Medicare into your financial programming, so you have unlimited income coming in indefinitely. Those are phrases that people like to hear. Unlimited income coming in indefinitely. These are things that APG helps people plan for.
Awesome. And by the way, I've pretty much fallen in love with what you do, and I'm definitely going to be one of those people who come to seek your services, just because I know I'm a little bit younger, but it's something that I'm planning for continuously. And just because, you know, I have two girls myself. Most of the people who watch this show or have seen it in the past know I have two little girls. Both kids I had while I was in the military, and I do anything for them and try and take care of them in the best way I know how. They both did like a soccer tryout yesterday, and that's kind of every little step like that as a parent is something that you kind of hit home with. And I certainly believe with the rising cost of healthcare, and just because I'm a franchise broker dealing with senior healthcare companies and working with a lot more senior healthcare and medical care, medical billing, just in general, I look at those figures every day, and the projections on those costs are rising astronomically. Regardless of what the economy's doing and whether or not it goes up or down, those costs are continuing to rise. So that's something that they got to face. And I truly have loved what you've had to say about that. But to flip gears a little bit, I'd like to go more into what is the benefit for the franchisee? What do you guys do to support them? And what does it look like? What's the light at the end of the tunnel, or the rainbow? What's at the pot of gold for them? And do you guys have examples of some great franchisees really living it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll let Chelsea address that question in a second. But first, I wanted to add that we bring our message to the public through workshop marketing. We do free, no-cost educational seminars to the public. We don't charge them for admission. We don't charge them for the handout materials, the books we put together and give them. It's free, no pressure, no commitment, no obligation, no selling, no products are mentioned, no companies are mentioned. It's a free educational workshop program. That's how we get our message across. There's no bribe. We don't give them a free meal if they come. They're only coming for the information. So we have a quality, interested prospect that comes to visit with us, and we give them a chance to meet with us one-on-one. Also, no cost, no fee, no commitment, no obligation, no kidding. And that's how we deliver our message. That's what our franchisees will be doing when they come on board and they like what we say and they like what we preach. We're going to give them a forum, a soapbox to stand on, to preach to the public in a non-committal, non-threatening environment to get our message across. If the prospect attendee decides they want to take it to the next level and meet with the speaker to discuss those items that would not be appropriate in a public forum with their neighbors or relatives or friends sitting next to them, or total strangers for that matter, they have a forum to meet with us one-on-one. And I'll digress with your question over to Chelsea for the types of people and their prior backgrounds before coming to us and the levels of success that they've achieved with us.
Real quick on that note, can you explain real quick the 3 different ways that a financial planner gets paid?
I'll come back to that. Go right ahead.
Okay. So your question was more or less asking about the franchisees and what we look for. And, you know, sometimes when people hear about our industry, they really think that we want someone who was an old stockbroker or an accountant or someone that came from our field. And quite honestly, that's not what we're looking for. We want someone that has no prior experience. That opens the doors to a lot more opportunity for people. We want to teach everybody right from wrong, how to do business correctly. And that's what really makes a clean slate. It's the best person we can work with. We give them the education they need. Now, yes, they do need to get licenses to do this business. All of my franchisees are going to be life and health insurance license for their state, and they're going to have 3 different securities licenses. That would be the Series 6, the Series 63, and the Series 65. So if a lot of people know about this industry, they don't need the Series 7, which is like getting your law degree. So you don't need to worry about the big bad test. But the rest of them are very easy to obtain as long as you have a clean background, which God willing, everybody does. So therefore, that gives you the education background, the licensing background to have, you know, a good soapbox to stand on when you sit down with these people and educate them about what you can do for their portfolio. And also I mentioned that we are independent. APG does not have APG products. We are affiliated with dozens of companies, all the top companies in the country. So not one person's portfolio or file is going to be identical to anybody else. Everyone's going to be different based upon their situation, their wants, needs, and desires for their future. So on that note, but the commonality that I've seen a lot with my franchisees, that they are educated. And I don't mean that they've got lots of degrees, but they are an educated person. They can speak well. They comprehend different things very well. They don't have a hard time with reading materials like a prospectus on a particular illustration we're discussing, or the topic at hand being financial planning or the stock market. They're just bright. They have the ability to be able to comprehend. They don't have to have a doctorate. However, some of my franchisees do have their PhD, which is just fantastic. It kind of helps to have the little doctor, before their name, or the PhD after their name. It's, it's pretty sexy. But, in addition to that, I kind of see that a commonality would also be that they are 35 to 50-ish. That's the age bracket that I also see. Does not necessarily mean they have to be. I would love to take younger people on. That's just more to their advantage, that they have a longer life to be more successful. But we have the opportunity with people in that age bracket to give them flexibility within their life and their schedule. A lot of people leave the corporate world and look into franchising, able to have the ability to still work, be their own boss, but have time for their family, or just for things that they have interest in, golf or reading or travel, whatever it may be. And APG really does give that opportunity back. We are owner operated, so you don't have other people licensed underneath you. You can have an employee, doing the paperwork in the office administration, or a spouse for that matter. Excellent family operation here with APG opportunities. But they are able to have that time that they can say, I'm not going to have a workshop or an appointment at this time because my daughter has their soccer game and I want to go and see their soccer game. And you can be able to do that with APG, which is really just outstanding. Not a lot of opportunities have that ability.
Let me answer that. My wife has been working with me at my side for 32 years in this business, 32 years. And technically I'm married 30 years in June coming up. But if you think about all the hours we've spent together in 32 years of working together, where most husbands and wives go in different directions, 8 to 12 hours a day, I've been married about 400 years, if you think of the time that we spend together, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And now my favorite daughter, Chelsea, works with us every single day. I have 3 favorite boys who are not yet able or ready or age-wise to be working with me. I'm counting on that, although that's obviously not in stone or in a steel cage that they have to work with dad. But I would like that to happen. On that note, parents can look forward to bringing their children into this business. And as Chelsea mentioned, there is no format where you're married to the business 9 to 5 or 8 in the morning until 8 at night. If you do want to go to that game or get a haircut in the middle of the afternoon or take a week off, you can do that. It's not a pre-scheduled format like a retail business. We are not that. Chelsea asked me to ask you, or to tell you rather, about the 3 ways financial professionals get paid. I think that's important to know that. And one, the most popular and most prolific, is called AUM, Assets Under Management, where you sign a contract with the broker-dealer that you're going to pay them typically a 1 to 2% annual fee withdrawn from your account on a quarterly basis for them to manage your money. So if you give them $1 million, or use that as an example, it's easy to work with, $1 million, and they charge you a 2% fee, you paid them $20,000 for the privilege of managing your money that year. Now, at the end of the year, if your statement says you have $800,000 left because they didn't do too well, they send you a bill for next year for $16,000, 2% of the $800,000 remainder. Most people are not happy with that form of financial compensation. I'm certainly not, and APG has not done that. The second way is to charge by the hour, like an accountant or a lawyer, $400 or $500 an hour. And when a client, this is a relationship business. So when a client calls you up and says, Mark, how's your wife? How's Chelsea? How are the kids? And you answer them, you're putting them on the clock. And when you in turn ask them about how their kids are doing, that's on the clock. And we've decided never, ever to do that. And we want them to have no reservation in calling with a question, giving them the answer they deserve. And so we don't charge by the hour. The third way is the most unpopular, is what we've decided to do, which is to meet with our clients and prospects on unlimited consultative basis, no cost, no fee, no commitment, no kidding. And then we will design plans and programs for them that represent a major upgrade, at least in our opinion, to what they're currently doing. They have a chance to look at that, study it, rip it apart, ask more questions, all again with no cost, no fee. If they come to the conclusion that in fact is not in their interest or not the best things for them, they can say simply no thank you and walk away. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, no cost, no obligation, no fee. On the other hand, if they do agree that what we said and represented made sense, then those companies that get their money to work with, they will compensate the APG franchisee directly with no additional cost or fee to the consumer, none. And if the consumer wants to go around our back to go to those same vendors to get that service, it's exactly the same price. So it doesn't matter that they use us or not. They're better off to use us because we'll give them that concierge service, that liaison representation that they wouldn't get if they went around us and are not even paying for it. So of the three ways that a financial professional gets paid, we think that's the best one. And I became a multimillionaire doing this that way for the last 35 years. So our best performing, the best talented franchisees that we have did not come from this business whatsoever. One of them worked for a telecommunications company. Another one was ex-military, retired military captain, in fact. Another one worked as a franchisee somewhere else in a different type of industry. Another one started in the banking community, working behind a desk in a bank. So it's interesting that the different backgrounds, nothing that they share in common. Another person worked as an occupational and safety and hazard inspector for a battery company. So it's very diversified, very varied, and we look forward to that spice. But I have to tell you, the greatest asset and attribute of APG is our franchisees and their interrelationships with other franchisees. Yeah. We speak with our franchisee population every 7 days on a webinar similar to this what we're doing today, and they can see each other, speak to each other 25, 30, up to 50 at a time, that we can all see each other and have a monthly or a weekly meeting. On top of that, we do get together monthly in person, quarterly in person here in New Jersey, but we're speaking to each other from the comfort of their own office and their own home every Monday morning for an hour and a half. And so there's camaraderie, there's ongoing training forever. In this industry, training is not only required, it's necessary, it's mandatory, because if you don't, not on the cutting edge of what's going on, you're not the top of your game. So we have training and programs and guest speakers and various companies that come in and espouse their wares and share with us the concepts, what's going on in the industry, both domestically, internationally. It's important to know this. You know, with the advent of the internet, if someone in Greece sneezes, well, over here we say, God bless you. That's how fast the information transmits around the world, and how that affects people's portfolios is in direct proportion. It's important that we purvey information all the time so to keep our clients totally informed of what's going on, how they can better benefit and best themselves year after year moving forward. Because remember, the ultimate goal of building a portfolio is to derive the income from it. So when you hang up your hat for the last time on your job and there's no more paycheck coming in, you're dependent on your portfolio to support you forever. And I think the industry itself has done a very poor job in teaching people and impressing upon them the importance of portfolio accumulation for the purpose of deconstructing it to give you an income for the rest of your life and your spouse's life. And even to the point where there's zero left, that the income still comes in at the highest level it ever did before. And then passing on maximum wealth to the children when you're all done with everything. And that's, in a nutshell, what APG franchisees do for our public, for the people that we serve.
All right. And you have touched on some great points that I kind of want to follow up with.
Please.
You know, you touched on training as far as continual training in this aspect, but also just the really what the systems themselves have failed to do for our communities and as far as education. And I tell you what, you know, even with your captain, I'd love to talk to him sometime too, just because of the military affiliation. The biggest thing is, and I don't know corporate America, but I do know the military. And they fail to teach a lot of this as an aspect because a lot of them don't know it. They're relying on an old system from the military that is essentially now archaic and is being changed. And it's being changed at this very minute. No longer will military be given a full-blown retirement. It's all changing. It's going to be converted to a 401k, essentially the corporate way of dealing with things. So if, you know, and in speaking to your franchisees in this, if they ever see this, please look, go into a military, catch the military at the earliest stage of their career, not the latest. the latest, sometimes it's way too late. They need to hear this stuff as early as possible. That's my opinion on things. I mean, what do you think?
Age is huge. I mean, the fact that you have more time to be able to save and invest for your future, you're never getting younger. That's how it works. So use the time to your advantage. Use your health to your advantage. And speaking of the military, I mean, you're the healthiest upon entering, going through boot camp and everything like that. And you have to treat every person like that as well. You know, you are young, use that to your advantage. You start seeing health concerns and problems happen as you age. So to alleviate that, do the proper planning ahead of time. We have the saying at APG, we call it the 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance, period. So if you apply the 7 Ps into any aspect of your life, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. But we push that and strive for people to be able to apply the 7 Ps within their financial futures, because that will be able to solidify everything to be successful. Because unfortunately, that's just how the world has worked now. Money does, you know, pretty much solve all your problems. It can take care of your health. It takes care of your children. It takes care of your house, your clothing, your food that you put in your mouth. Everything needs to have, you know, the money to pay for. You don't need to have an extra, but the more you have, the more you get to save for your children when you're not around. We've got products available to be able to invest for your grandchildren to give them a retirement. I mean, it's something that you never would even think about, that you can be able to put money in for an infant that you might have just had, and you can have their retirement paid for before you die. I mean, it's just incredible. And the way that you can set it up to protect it, so the little kids, when they get to turn 18, they don't get it. They don't put their hands on it until you say what age bracket it is that you want them to have it.
Even if you're dead.
Even if you're dead. It's really phenomenal what you can do. But age is just something that has to be harnessed and taken advantage of. And it's unfortunate because, Alex, you and I are near the same age bracket. A lot of our peers are just so uneducated. It's not a matter of immaturity. It's not being educated in it. And we need to try our best to be able to tell our friends and our associates and everybody else who's in that age bracket, use your health and your age to your advantage. You're not saying you don't have to be a millionaire to be investing. You need to have something. And as long as you get a paycheck, it's just a couple dollars every paycheck, $50, $100, whatever it is a month, that can go you miles longer than any other, fortune that you've saved up and then invest when you're 60 or 50.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. I mean, I created Franchise Talk. I created this program to promote entrepreneurship, and which is a wealth mechanism that I try and promote. And even with people twice our age, essentially, I know I'm younger, but you can be a business owner at any point. There's no requirement for it other than resources and maybe a little bit of money, depending on what you're trying to do. To be creative is a serious thing. But when you're talking about wealth management, continuing policy change, you need mentors like these folks. You need that in your life, and you need to have a plan. And you mentioned P's, like a system of P's. Yeah. We had one in the military too. It's 5 P's. Piss poor planning promotes pain. And there's a little bit of difference.
I like mine better.
I know, I do too, because I did the military thing for a while, and the pain part hurts. Trust me. But you guys are exactly right.
You mentioned a really good thing about starting early, and you and Chelsea are both talking about age. I started planning for Chelsea's college to pay for that a month after she was born, and started putting away money every 2 weeks in a specially designed program that by the time she got to college age, it was totally paid for. No matter what college she wanted to go to in the country, it was totally financed and paid for in advance. I've done the same thing for my other 3 children, but beyond that, for the 2 younger guys who are now 15 and 17 respectively, I put money away for their retirement. After college was financed and paid for, I put money away for the retirement. And where they're going to get from this, under current projections, $19 million of tax-free income each for their retirement between the ages of 60 and 110 years old. There's no reason they shouldn't live to 110 years old, people who are young today. Matter of fact, Time Magazine did an article and said the first person to live to 150 years old is alive today. Now, that's an interesting concept, talking about longevity and talking about outliving your money. If that statement is true, people living to 120, 130, 40, and 50, will their money last them for the rest of their lives? We sell programs and market programs that guarantee the answer would be yes. Not only that, we teach them why they should start saving and investing at the earliest age possible. Let's call it the age of breathing. That's when they should start putting money away for their futures and for their children's futures. You know, someone like dad takes care of food, clothing, and shelter for the child until he's able or she able to fend for themselves. And once they start making money and entering the working world, there's three things that to put away money for. Number one is so they can live for the moment. Number two is for the future you when you get there. And number three is for their children to get them going. So the enormity of when you're making money, enormity of the responsibility of taking care of your family is maximum. And I know for a fact that the implication of that and the education of that is far lacking in the traditional school systems. Private, public, parochial, doesn't make a difference. There is no education in financial planning that I've seen to any extent that I would be proud of anywhere. And that's why there's such opportunity for APG franchisees to fill in the gaps, fill in the blanks, not only give them the education information, but the products and services that finance and fund these things is so vital important that anyone with gumption, anyone with fortitude, anyone with direction, and who wants to be a leader, who wants to be a public speaker, who likes working with people, who wants to help people, and the subject of money interests them, and they're not afraid of numbers, not sigma pi numbers, but basic math. Those kind of people would be perfect franchisee candidates for us. And if they want to entertain and engage in conversation with us, we will go the extra mile to tell them anything and everything about our opportunity and about what's involved in this industry, and they can make a decision if they think they can make it or not. And we will tell them if we think they can make it or not, and it will be totally honest from the get-go. And if we don't think they can, we don't think they have to possess the proper attributes or qualities or personality, we don't want to waste anyone's time. We don't make money on franchise fees. That's ridiculous. We will do them a favor and say, look elsewhere. Try this other opportunity. Go back to this broker and talk to them again. Find something else. On the other hand, if we think that they're a perfect match, we'll tell them that, and I will pour all of my energy and effort and 35 years of experience into them to shorten that learning curve, to shorten the gap. If I could make an illustrative example, if I can take a fire wire and plug it into my brain and take the other side and plug it into their brain and download 35 years of experience and information and education, that's what I want to do. And I want to collapse that time frame from 35 years down to 2 wonderful when you can share the wealth and you can all be on the same bandwagon, beating your bass drum and clanging your cymbals for financial independence for the people that we serve and the people that serve them. That's what we're all about.
That's perfect. That's perfect for what we want, because essentially you've got to have perks. There has to be perks to being a business owner. And what I've seen in this case, and what I highly encourage, is that if you're looking at this, and if you're looking at this with some sort of interest, keep in mind I have a couple things. One, from my aspect, there are very few franchises with somebody of this caliber who's willing to teach you what he knows to make you as financially capable and successful, and that's a big deal. At least an asset and a perk I would heavily consider as a green flag. And overall, I appreciate you guys, working with a lot of folks in this educational format. Education is everything to me. It's everything that I think of on a daily basis with my daughters and what the schools aren't teaching them, and how much I hate Common Core. There's a lot of stuff and deep-seated aggression in there. Apparently you do too. So there's a lot of deep-seated aggression there across the country. So on a daily basis, I teach my daughters fundamentals of business and trying to work with and leverage money. So overall, if you step into this, there are some perks to being in this business that you've identified, and thank you very much for that. Overall, I have a couple more questions, primarily relating to the requirements of this business. What does it take to be in this business? Net worth, liquid capital investment, average investment if you can, and any kind of certifications and whatnot. I know you've covered that already, but just kind of give us a quick breakdown.
Okay, I'll take some of it and I'll let Mark elaborate. Our franchise fee is $50,000, so that is the immediate price tag on our franchise. If you are a veteran, we do give discounts. So we have, then it turns down to 45 for our franchise fee, because we appreciate everyone that has served our country, and thank you for that. In addition to it, our net worth, we look for around 250,000, mainly because you have to have the investment for the franchise fee, and then you obviously have to have the amounts to be able to get yourself started. We do require a location. We are brick and mortar, so you cannot be out of your home. You don't have to own a place, but you can rent it, but we don't allow suites, or like a Regis, those types of things don't really fall into line with what we want our appearance to be. We want it to be more homey and welcoming, not temporary with the fluorescent lights like a doctor's office. We want something a little more like an old home converted to an office. So you have to have that expense in there for it. And the other, starting getting yourself with that cushion just to play it safe, because you have to get your licenses, and that's part of the requirements as well. So I'd say net worth around 250 at minimum. You have to have at least the liquid for the 50,000 for the franchise fee. Probably a little bit more would be a little more realistic, around 100 or so. And you can roll things in from an IRA or from a any type of retirement plan to help you out with those programs. A lot of the brokers have those programs that you could recommend for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with people with 401ks. We work with people with across the board. We have financial partners that essentially step in and help you guys get the best options you got. People always ask the financial questions right up front. To me, and you guys can rebound a little bit of this, I never say look at financials right off the bat. The first thing you have to do as far as finding the right franchise and what this program's about is finding a company with overlapping goals and values as you, what you are looking for to overlap. Because at the end of the day, if those don't overlap, the money and the investment won't amount to squat.
Yep.
So that's my preference on it, and that's what I do, and that's how I work.
You talk about the attributes of owning your own business. For the right person, owning your own business, regardless of the industry, regardless of the subject matter, there is nothing better where you can pour your blood, sweat, and tears into something and get a dividend from that activity, as opposed to letting someone else realize their goals when you're working for them. They are building their future. They're building their fortune on someone else's sweat equity. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with having a job, but job is an acronym, just over broke. And salary is defined as they pay you just enough money to dull your ambition to look elsewhere. And I never wanted to deal with that in my life. I've been self-employed as a business owner since I'm 18 years old. That's the only way that I would do that. I don't want someone else deciding what my worth is by way of a paycheck and dangling a carrot always. Oh, maybe I'll get a raise. Maybe I'll get a bonus. No, I want to do something that I'm passionate about, that I love, that there's going to be a discernible, visible effort out there, that someone is benefiting from my labor and my sweat equity, that I'm helping other people. Folks, I cannot tell you what it means. And Alex, you asked me to give maybe a story if I could. I went to see some young couple early in my career. I was maybe 22 years old, and this couple was my age bracket, and they had 2 children in their early 20s, and he rode a motorcycle, and that was his passion to do that on the weekends. And I sold these folks a life insurance policy. And he had a $25,000 Metropolitan policy. And for the same price, I was able to give them $250. Same price, $250. What they were paying for $25. And they, of course, embraced that right away. And I said, for $9 a month more, I could make this $500,000. And she said, well, you already increased our insurance by a factor of 10. Isn't that enough? I said, no, it's not enough. You got 2 young babies. It's not enough. And she said, no, I'm happy with what we're paying right now. And I got 3 no's, 3 no thank yous, that they were just happy with the $250. Of course, the end of the story. 8 months later, I had to go back and deliver a death claim because he was hit on the motorcycle. And the guy that hit him was playing chicken and went over the double yellow line and hit him on purpose. And there was a police investigation for attempted murder and death by auto and all kinds of stuff. Bottom line to this family was, thank God I was not the Metropolitan agent going back in there with a $25,000 check. I went in with $250. But if you think about it, for another 8 months times $9 for $72 more would have been $500,000. And when I got to the front door and the wife's father was there, he opened the door, let me in. He knew I was coming, and I had this check in my pocket. And it got to the proper moment, and I presented the check of $250,000. She angrily grabbed that check, crinkled it up into a ball, and threw it across the room and yelled at me, and what the heck am I supposed to do with this check? And can you imagine if it was a $25,000 check? And for $72 more, it could have been $500,000. And those kids would never had a worry or fear in the world, and the wife wouldn't have worried about anything. Of course, this story goes back 30 plus years ago, where it's still 250 was not a small sum of money, not by any stretch of the imagination, but 500 would have been a lot better. And those are the stories which impress upon you a new sales talk. And Alex, the new sales talk was this: 3 no's is a maybe, 4 no's is a maybe, 5 no's is a no. And if I had gone for maybe 1 or 2 more no's, which were maybes, I maybe would have been able to deliver $500,000 instead of a $250,000 check. But nothing changes your life when you have to deliver a check to a grieving widow with children for a 6-digit number or a 7-digit number. When you do this, it certainly solidifies what we do for a living, which is a lot more valuable, at least to people like me, than working at a job, putting widgets into a flask, okay, as an example. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact, and that's just one example where definitely an impact was made. 250 instead of 25. Anyone else can do the math and see that check was worth a lot more than 10 times more.
And I do appreciate that. I appreciate that story, because that's something that's been a definite impact on my life as well. And as far as where I've come from and what I've done, I also ride motorcycles. I have 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them in the garage now. I'm selling a couple of them. I don't have time very much anymore, but I do love them significantly. And I've had friends to die on motorcycles. I've seen those incidents, and I've been around that quite a bit. And with those hazards and with what in life is a big deal. It's looking at what you do and what you do as a business or what you do in life, you gotta love, because being in combat situations, which I have been in before, you're looking at points in your life that have extreme impact on what you do in the future. And that's why most people with that experience says do what you do and what you want to do in life to make your life and those around you better, because that's what you contribute yourself to every day. And I do it with Franchise Talk. I do it with Franchise Brokerage. And, I dare anyone else, who's not, and who's very challenged, who likes challenge in life, who wants to see it to its fullest, to do very well. And I know that's a big impact as far as what we're capable of as business owners and how it relates to our business. So it's a big deal, and I do appreciate it. With everything, I appreciate you guys copping on. There have been some amazing things that have gone on and have been construed in this, and I want to thank you for your time and thank you for hopping on Franchise Talk. If you guys have anything else you guys want to say, now's the time to say it. Let me know. You guys are up.
I do. I want to end by saying thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for giving us this forum and this opportunity to reach more people than we can through our normal channels. But I do want to close with one sentence only for you, and this is a personal thing for me to you. And that is, Alex, I would like you to trade in your motorcycles for an ATV. I made the decision after crashing on my motorcycle that I would never be on anything with a motor on it unless it had 4 wheels underneath me. And an ATV is equal as much fun if you like to ride in the dirt or off the road. An ATV, and then I went out and I bought 6 of them for all of my family members as well. And you talk about being in business and being your own boss and being in the driver's seat. It's very lucky to be able to house all 6 of my ATVs at my house. I have a 9-car garage, and it used to be filled up with Rolls Royces. I used to collect Rolls Royces. And what a wonderful thing to be able to say, damn it, I'm worth it. And why not me? Everyone is born into a class of people. Rich people give birth to rich kids, and middle class give birth to middle class kids, and poor give birth to poor kids. Just the way it is. But There's no law that says you cannot work yourself out of the class in which you were born. And I am certainly a testament to that. And I want to help as many people as I can, for those who want to, put forth the effort, the energy, and need a vehicle, need a direction, need a tool to let them claw out of the class in which they were born and which they found themselves, or return to, and they want to move back up or get out of there. This is what we offer to our potential franchisees by helping our people, the clients that we serve, maintain or increase their standard of living for themselves and their families as well. What a perfect synergy. What a wonderful thing. But being the richest guy in the cemetery helps no one. So make sure that you trade your bike in for an ATV.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm doing that right now. I'm actually selling both bikes because, one, I am cranking up this, and I'm working on Franchise Talk. But two, you know, motorcycles is something I can't really, although I have shared in the past with my family. I've worked on them in the garage, and I have great photos and memories of working on my bikes with my daughters. It's not something that I can do on the weekends, which is what I like to do, is fish. And so I'm looking at trading both those in, or selling both those for a boat.
Fishing boat.
Not quite an ATV, but it's a boat.
Okay, as long as you have a life preserver.
Yeah, I was say fishing for life.
Got life preservers. They're there, you know. So, you know, I can. My whole goal was to be, you know, with me being gone for years in Iraq and Afghanistan, I wanted to spend as much time as I could with my kids. At the end of the day, I wanted to be there all the time. I do that with a home-based business today, and there's plenty of them out there. So, you know, regardless of what fits your framework as to what you want, I believe that there is a business out there for everyone. I believe there's a franchise out there for everyone. You wouldn't believe the amount of personalities that I find across the board. But to leave off with this, I know me and Mark could probably talk forever. Based on what we've talked about so far. I would love to hang out in a room with him for a given day or two. And so I want to leave off with this. When I first started, when I got out of high school, you know, I was set up for college, and it wasn't the right time. There was a bunch of stuff that happened that was all bad. Essentially, I got out and I worked construction at the beach. I became a beach guy. And I worked construction and helper as a crew in multiple construction companies that remodeled $1 million homes. And everybody I'd met throughout my life that was much like Mark, in a big way. Many people I met with who have been very successful and have been much like Mark. All said the same thing when I asked them the same questions, and that question was, you know, what do you do for a living? Because I saw the toys, I saw the time they spent with their families, I saw what they did for a living, and I asked the question, what do you do? And the question was always answered every single time with, I own fill in the blank, and that had left a massive impression on me at an early age and then later on. And I encourage any military guys who, no matter what your rank, no matter what your level or your level of education, you have the potential to make that change. I encourage those in corporate America who I've talked to on a regular basis, make that change, make that commitment. We used to call it in the military, whenever you'd go into combat, or every time if you had to kick in a door, if you had to go in, it's called violence of action. You have to commit and keep going. You can't hesitate at the last minute. I encourage you to commit to an action in your life that's going to better your future, and overall that's going to look at the welfare of your family and look forward to you essentially leveling up your life. I've been able to help out a couple people even through Xbox One, find some businesses. I'm not kidding, doing broadcasting on Xbox One on a video game to show them how to level up their life. And I believe that in a big way. And Mark, I appreciate that definition and that overview of it. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for hopping on. This is Franchise Talk, and you have just seen APG. Follow us. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and pass it around. Please let other people know this exists, because the more people that know this exists, the more people that commit to that action, the more jobs in this country that we have, and the more great people we have to build it and grow wealth and prosperity. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take it easy. This is Franchise Talk.
Thank you, Alex.